There will be a spoiler warning for the season. I didn't feel like there was really that much to spoil, but I do go in depth for spoilers. I mean, I don't really go super in depth, but I do mention things that are spoilers. So, if you are looking to watch this video and you haven't seen the season yet, I would highly recommend you see the season first. If you don't want me to just throw out some things that happen, because I do. That's basically what it is. I throw out some things that happen in the final episode that may be considered big spoilers. So, if you don't want to get spoiled, go watch the season first and then come back and watch this. And with that out of the way, enjoy the video. iMovie crashed on me again. I don't know why this keeps happening to me, but maybe actually I could record in a photo booth. That would be better. But either way, in case it wasn't obvious, I'm just doing this from my laptop. So technical difficulties again. But Mandalorian season 3. Yeah, I know this is late. But I just got around to watching the episode late, and I've been busy. It's been busy. So I watched the episode late. The final episode. That's also why the weekly episode reviews that I had fully planned on doing stopped, because by week 2 came around and I was really busy and I didn't get around to watching the episode until Friday, and it takes time to record and edit these. So yeah, I mean, I knew I would have gotten it out by like Sunday. And I just didn't feel like, like 4 days after the episode came out, that's when I put up my video on the episode. It felt too late, and so I felt like I wasn't going to do it. And that's why here I am recording this a week after the final episode of the season came out. So, anyway, Mandalorian season 3, what did I think? It was good. I mean, like, it was enjoyable. It was a good time. But, as I talked about in the deleted footage, it just really felt aimless. This season really felt aimless. Like, it was a good time. It was a fun time. But it just felt aimless. And I sort of felt like with the season, it knew how it wanted to start, and it knew how it wanted to end, but it didn't really know how to get there. And that sort of, I'll go through quickly because I did this in the deleted footage, but episodes 3 through 6, it felt so aimless. Like they were sort of one-off adventures, but it didn't feel like any of them really drove the plot forward that much. Especially confusing about episode 3. So episode 3 was the one with the people from Coruscant, where it spent the entire episode focusing on people who weren't Din Djarin and Bo-Katan, and it was just confusing. Like I didn't, when you spend a whole episode setting up new characters, you sort of expect that these characters are going to come back, right? Like, you sort of expect that, okay, these new characters are important, they're going to be back in the season later on. And they just weren't. I mean, it's clear they're going to have an important part of Star Wars later. I don't know whether it's Mando season 4 or whatever else they're doing in this universe. These, in this, I guess, Star Wars is all connected universe, but whatever. In this era, right? In this Mandalorian post-Return of the Jedi era, it's clear these people are going to be important and they're going to come back. But when I sort of view seasons as a contained thing, right? I sort of view seasons as a book, right? Like a book in a trilogy, let's say, or a movie in a trilogy. But I like the book example better. So, a book in a series, and I think my favorite example of what I'm trying to talk about is Harry Potter. And what I am trying to say, I know it's being rambly, but what I want out of books in a series, and I want the same thing out of seasons and movies too, is I want them to be self-contained. And what I mean by that is, you can have them be a part of a bigger story, but I like when these stories that are part of these bigger series, they have an ending. And it doesn't have to be the most satisfying thing, but it has an ending, and you feel like the story of that book, of that season, of that movie ended. And while that story is part of a bigger story, this part of that story ended, and it has a good ending. And the reason why I mentioned Harry Potter is because honestly, this is probably where this desire came from. Because, well, obviously, I'm not talking about J.K. Rowling and all that, trans rights. That's all I have to say. But, the thing I like about the Harry Potter books is they have an ending. Obviously, they are a bigger part of a story. There is a bigger story there. But still, the school year comes to an end. Whatever fight is going on against Voldemort ends. There's an explanation by Dumbledore. And then they all go home. They all leave Hogwarts and they go home. It feels... There's an ending. There's an ending, and then there's a beginning in the next book. And... So I like books, seasons, movies to follow that model. To, even if it's part of a bigger story, have its own beginning, middle, and end that's self-contained. So that you could, right? So that you could just watch that, right? Like, you could just watch this part, right? Like, I could just pick up and read Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. And even though I know, and I know it's part of the bigger story and everything, but I could just pick up Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, read it, feel like it's a good ending, and not read everything else if I wanted to. I can still get that satisfaction from finishing the story without feeling like I need to read all the other 6 books in the series and in proper order if I just wanted to read Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. And that's sort of what I really like and what I expect out of seasons, movies, shows, everything like that. And this setup goes against that, and I didn't like that, right? Like, obviously they're going to be important later, but if you're going to set up these characters, in this season, if you're going to take a whole episode to set up these characters, bring them back in this season, weave them into this season, and the overarching plot, and they didn't do that, and so I didn't really love that. I mean, I'm curious what they do with these characters later, but until we have that, it just feels like a waste of an episode. Like, until we have that story, like, if you're just watching Mandalorian season 3, and if you're just watching Mandalorian season 3, if you're watching just that self-contained Mandalorian season 3, I feel like you really can skip over that episode, aside from the beginning and the end where they actually have Din Djarin. But and I don't like that. I'm intrigued where they go with these people. I am, but I wish they wove them into the season more. And so I didn't love that. But and the other episodes, 4, 5, and 6, they're fun adventures. They're lighthearted, fun adventures, and there's nothing wrong with that. With them is, I didn't feel like they moved the plot forward at all, especially episode 4. So episode 4 is that one where they rescue the child, right? Like, the child of the guy who dies at the end of episode 7. I don't know his name. Gets captured, and they spend the whole episode trying to rescue him, right? And that episode, I mean, there are small things that move the plot forward, such as Bo-Katan being redeemed by having bathed in the water, and I think that's Grogu's episode 66 scene is in that episode too. So you have, like, these small things that move the plot forward, but they're on the side. The main thing that the episode is about does not push the overall season arc forward at all. It just doesn't. And so, like, if you're watching the season again, you still have to watch it for those little snippets, but, like, Yeah, and again, it's not like the rescue was bad. Like, it was done well, it was good, it was fun, but I sort of, like, when the episode was over, I sort of felt like, well, what was the point in that? Like, nothing really happened to move the plot of the season forward. And that's really what I felt like with Season 5 and Season 6 too. Season 5 is the pirate attack on Navarro, and Season 6 is Jack Black and the droids, battle droids. It sort of feels like the same thing. Like, they're light-hearted adventures, and for that, they are fun, right? Like, they're episodes that you could just show to someone and be like, hey, like, look at this, isn't this cool? And that's cool, and that has its own appeal, but I want episodes that move the story forward. Or at least, if you're going to do that, right? This goes back to what I was talking about in Clone Wars, in my Clone Wars video, which, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. But where I talked about the filler C-3PO and R2-D2 episodes, where if you're going to do one just for the pacing of it, just throw one in between good episodes, that's fine. But, like, just do one, right? Like, just do one. Just do one and move on. And I didn't feel like the season did that. Like, the lighthearted adventures do cool, but what do they do to actually move the season forward? And the answer is, they don't do that much. And that's sort of disappointing. Like I said, it sort of feels like they knew where they wanted to start, and they knew where they wanted to end. But getting there, they weren't sure. And so they had these filler episodes. And let me tell you, you really should not do filler episodes if your season is only going to be 8 episodes long. Because 8 episodes isn't even a ton of episodes. So, like, if you're going to do 8 episodes, you should not do filler. Just not. No. Don't do filler if your season is only 8 episodes long, because that means you only have 7 episodes to actually do what you want. And so you're limiting yourself even more by doing filler. And so, yeah, I mean, that's really what I thought about the season arc overall. Just, I don't know, it's there. It happens in the beginning and it happens at the end. And I will say, what's it called? What's his name? Not Bo-Katan. Moff Gideon. He's great. Moff Gideon does a great job. He's really, he's a really, really good villain. And I really like Moff Gideon. So it's cool seeing him again, but I hope they don't drag it on. Like, I was glad, honestly, that they got rid of the Darksaber. That the Darksaber is destroyed. Because they didn't even have that much of the Darksaber in here. But I felt like I was getting done with it. Like, I was worried they're going to drag it on for too long. And so I was sort of glad that they got rid of it. And sort of it made me think, again, going back to Harry Potter, the Elder Wand. You know what the Elder Wand has the benefit of? It's one of a trio. There are, it's the Deathly Hallows. It's one of... First, I guess the Darksaber has it being a mythical thing too, but the Elder Wand, like I said, it's part of 2 other things, and they all have a common theme about death, right? And you have the story of the parallels and everything. It sort of has a much more overarching common theme and much more of an overarching significance to me than the Darksaber does. And I feel like that really hurt it, right? Because, as I said, in the if you did watch my season 1 review, I did say it there. The Darksaber it's the Elder Wand. I mean, it's the Star Wars equivalent of the Elder Wand. That's just what it is. So I am glad they got rid of it. I think it served its purpose, and I think if they dragged it out longer, it would have gone really stale. So I'm glad they got rid of it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Bo-Katan. I mean, I didn't love her, I didn't hate her. I mean, she seems cool, I guess. I don't know, I didn't have any strong feelings towards Bo-Katan, and I know she's supposed to be like the main character of this season, but I mean, I don't know. She was cool. She did cool things. I was kind of screaming at the TV in episode 7 why she wasn't using the Darksaber, why she didn't think to use the Darksaber at all during like the entire episode until the end. But like, I sort of felt bad that she lost her authority and she had to fight to get it back. Like, I don't know. Like, she did her job, right? Like, the character work, I think, with her did its job. But, you know, like, like, I'm not in love with her or anything. Like, she's a solid character, but she's nothing more than that. Really left me confused about this season is what are they doing with Grogu? Like, seriously. Like, I know I said this already, I'm pretty sure. This season goes from being about Din and Grogu to being about Din and Bo-Katan, which is cool. I mean, that's a cool, it's an interesting direction to go. But you can't just get rid of Grogu entirely, because of his significance to Din Djarin. And the reality is Grogu just kind of became a background character in this season. Like, he wasn't given that much to do. The robot suit thing was funny. It was entertaining. But what does that do for him? And it just gets destroyed anyway. Like, he doesn't have it anymore. He just gets destroyed. So, it's kind of like, what was the point of that? Aside from just the haha, look, he's talking now. Kind of. Like, I don't know. It's just, like, it felt like they didn't have much to do. And I thought they had an arc planned, like, in episode 2. So episode 2 was the episode where he sort of showed a real connection with the Force when he was saving Din Djarin, right? Like, when Din Djarin was like, Grogu's get help, you see Grogu, like, become really, he sort of really taps into the Force there, and he does what he has to do to save Din's life. When I saw that, I was like, they might, like, I think this season might be about Grogu turning to the dark side, or at least starting to head down that path, because we see that in that episode and in episode 8 that he's becoming more and more powerful with the Force, even though he's not getting any training, right? He left Luke. He's still becoming more and more powerful with the Force, and that he's using that power to protect Din, which can go badly really quickly, right? And it's sort of like a repeat of Anakin, where I sort of half expected, especially during the last episode, that in order to save Din, out of fear of losing Din and out of rage that someone might take Din, I sort of expected Grogu to force choke someone that was like about to kill Din. I sort of thought like that might be what happened, and I sort of kept waiting for that moment, but it just didn't happen. But I still think that might be what they do, but it felt like they had nothing planned for Grogu, and that's kind of disappointing. Like, you're such a cool character that they just did nothing with. So we'll see what they happen with Grogu. I'm sure they have something planned, and if I'm right and it's about him luring to the dark side, you saw it here. But so yeah, I don't know what else. I was just disappointed that they had nothing for it. It was a little sad. And yeah, I mean, I think that's everything I have to say. Like, overall, this was a fun season, right? And this was the first season that I watched sequentially, like, while each episode was coming out. I caught up on the first 2 seasons after they happened. So, I wasn't watching them every week, but this was, like, the first time it's like every Wednesday, okay, time to watch The Mandalorian. That was the first time I experienced it with the show, and that was fun. That was a lot of fun. But yeah, like, this show, it's still really solid. I had this in the intro of the deleted footage, but to me, Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2 is the best Star Wars since Star Wars, and by that I mean it's the best Star Wars since the original trilogy. And I don't know where I would put Clone Wars yet. And the other extended media. Like, out of the stuff I've seen of Star Wars, it is the best Star Wars in Star Wars. And just because I'm waiting, like with Clone Wars, for example, I'm waiting until I fully finish that show before I rank it in terms of my, official Star Wars rankings. But, like, so this season was obviously less than that, but, it was still good, right? Like, it was still better than a lot of Star Wars stuff. Let's be real. Like, I would recommend this over Solo. I would recommend this over Rogue One. I would recommend this over the sequels. I would recommend this over the prequels. I would recommend this over Obi-Wan. I would recommend this over Obi-Wan. This season, I mean. Andor is where it gets tough because I enjoyed Andor quite a bit, and they both brought very different things to the show. So I don't know where I would put that in Andor. But still, Mandalorian season 3, it's still a really good time. I still really like what they're doing with it, and I didn't expect them to throw. I'm going to put it this way. I kind of expected them to throw the sequels under the rug and never talk about them again. I knew they weren't going to say that they're not canon. I knew Disney would never do that. But I kind of expected that they didn't want to touch the controversy and that they would just not talk about it. But what they are doing, and because that's what I feel like what they're setting up, right, with all this cloning, is obviously Palpatine's cloning. And it sort of feels like that's like their overarching plan with these now. It's to sort of save the sequels, right? Like I talked about Clone Wars in my Clone Wars video, which again you should watch. I talked about how the Clone Wars saves the prequels, right? How it sort of fixed a lot of the stuff that the prequels wanted to do. Clone Wars fixes it by doing it a lot better. And I sort of feel like that's what we're seeing with the Mandalorian, and with this post-Return of the Jedi world that they're doing. I sort of feel like that's the direction they're heading, is they're going to try and save the sequels, which if you can try and save the sequels, absolutely go for it, because they are a hot mess. So we'll see what happens. Overall, I'm looking forward to whatever is next for Din Djarin and Grogu, and I would recommend the season. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. I kind of already spoiled. I talk about spoilers a bit, but yeah, actually, maybe I should put a spoiler warning in now. Yeah, so I'll record the spoiler warning and put it in first. But anyway, so thank you for watching. I mean, I guess maybe I should start giving them more ratings, these things. So if I were to rank Mandalorian season 3 on the scale of, because this is how I sort of perceive things in my head. You have like bad, bad, really bad, then meh, which is like okay, good, which is good, right? Like good. You have sort of like meh plus, like in between there, like but meh, good, great, amazing, and any other words you could use for amazing. I would say Mandalorian season 3 is good. Like, despite, the criticisms I had, it's still a fun time. The episodes are still really well made. And it's fun. It's good. Like, it does, the season arcs and everything, even though it's basic and the middle episodes kind of don't contribute that much to it, it's still a good time. And so, I enjoy watching this season quite a bit, and yeah, we'll see what is to come. Also, actually, something I thought that was interesting, I just remembered it now, was how this season ends. And I don't mean by like there was a big twist or anything. I mean, look at the way this episode ends. Like, seriously, look at it. Because this episode, the way it ended, this could be like the last episode of the show. Like our last season of the show, like the way it ended. Like it's not like, although really I felt that way about season 2 too. To be fair, I was actually kind of hoping season 2 of The Mandalorian was the last season, because I thought it was the perfect ending. The story of the show was done. I knew it wasn't going to be the end, but I was like, if you're ever going to end this show, nothing will be a better spot than season 2. But season 3 also felt like a good ending to me, where, you know, the way everything's set up, I mean, like this could be the end. Like think about what they're doing. Like, Mando's gonna be the Republic, but he's shown kind of taking it easy on Navarro with, you know, Grogu eating stuff. Like, that could just be their life, you know, like their life could be like the one-off episodes of this season that we just don't see, and Grogu, you know, just kind of chilling out and learning. So, I don't know, I thought that was interesting. But anyway, so this show was good. I already said it was good. So if you want to go watch it. And thank you for watching this. Thank you for watching me rambling about Star Wars more. I've talked about this in the Clone Wars. You know, if you want to see me rant about Star Wars even more, there's like a 45-minute video up of me ranting about Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the first 3 seasons. So, and a little season 4 at the end. So if you want to go watch that, go watch it. And there'll be more shit like this to come. Don't you worry. I don't really know what else I'm gonna do now aside from Fellowship of the Ring and Clone Wars season 4. But I'll figure something out. There's always stuff to watch, and there's always stuff to talk about. But so if you want to see more, like and subscribe. It's the best way to do it. I mean, subscribing, definitely. And also, I don't know how to put it on, but look at this graph. You know, you see the graph. You know. Yeah, thank you everybody for watching, and have a good one. Peace.